What's up, guys? Evan Jarvis here. In this video, you are going to learn what Moneyball Poker is, how to use analytics to become a better poker player, and how to throw the poker equivalent of curveballs and changeups to confuse your opponents and lead them to making bad decisions, which benefit you. This is part 3 of a 3-part series, so if you haven't yet watched parts 1 or 2, I invite you to do so. I've put a link in the video description so you can click them real easy, get caught up to speed, and get the most out of this lesson. And when you're done with that, you know what to do. Keep on watching this video, and let's get stacking.
What ends up happening is most people like to play poker. Well, and most people think poker's a lot like having sex, or it's a lot like dancing or driving. You're born with it or you're not. And that is not true. You can improve it with just basic understanding of what works and what doesn't. They just had this happen in basketball. Basketball is one of those games everybody feels like if you can out-aggress the other opponent, if you're the better athlete, you will win. Yet there's a guy named Kyle Korver who's, I want to say he's 39. He's still playing for the Cavaliers, championship team in the last couple years. He's playing because he uses analytics. He lets people view how he jumps, and that predicts whether he's going to get an injury or not, and then he changes his jump ever so slightly. He uses heat-seeking maps to figure out where his best shots are, and he just ruthlessly pursues them, optimizes the minutes he plays, the different squads he plays with. And you can do the exact same thing with poker, and if you do it in just a rudimentary way, you will be in the 99th percentile. When analytics came into baseball, literally every single manager and general manager had to become well-versed in it. However, the complex data gave up a very simple answer. Get more runners on base. The data we're looking at here revealed a very simple lesson. Keep the betting lead. So for those of you who don't know about baseball, other than being just a gloriously beautiful sport from a mental training standpoint, baseball, the first statisticians in baseball were typically World War II veterans that just wanted to go to the ballpark all day and they just wanted to scribble something down. Baseball statistics box scores have been going on since the 20s, and people have been collecting data, real hard data, since the 40s, and it really blew up in the 1980s. But it wasn't till 2008 that this Harvard grad and this former player that I must confess, I really love the character of Billy Beane, the real guy. He kind of, he's the general manager of the Oakland Athletics. He kind of blew up. He was this Adonis, great-looking guy, great athlete who had a terrible career in the major leagues because the people looking into him just liked the look of him. They didn't like the right stuff. And instead of getting all bitter, he said, well, maybe we were looking for the wrong things, and if I can find the right things to look for in a ball player, I could make a great club. Which, by the way, what a man. Fails and takes his failure to the next level. Takes the lesson from it and takes his life to the next level. Like, what a man, right? And sure enough, what he found out was he was talking to his Harvard grad, and he said, so how do we win baseball games? He said, well, we got to make more runs. The team that makes more runs generally wins. How do we make more runs? You get a guy to home plate. How do you get a guy to home plate? Well, you got to get a guy to third. How do you get a guy to third? Someone's got to get to second. How do you get someone to second? You got to get to first base. So they started drafting all these bums from these weird countries, guys that were like 40 pounds overweight, guys that didn't look like ball players, right? They got them for pennies because they couldn't afford anything other than pennies. They were one of the poorest teams in Major League Baseball. And all these guys did was get to first base and tire out the pitchers. And they won 20 games in a row. It's the record. They almost went to the World Series with this ramshackle Bad News Bears team. And I thought there has to be something like this in poker, and there is. I teach it to all my students. Keep the betting lead. If you keep the betting lead, it's hard to find a distribution where you're not making money, as long as you don't pick ridiculous hands. Simple is not expendable. We tend to think of simple answers as expendable. We overestimate how valuable a complex idea is. However, let me ask you something. Describe in one sentence the lesson of the last training video you watched. Just the overlying thing. If you can't produce one sentence, then how much information did you truly get? Now, some of you watch really good concept videos, and you were able to answer that, but a lot of you guys watch the sweat sessions, the hand history reviews. And I think that has a process-oriented attraction, which I think is really good. I get a lot from that. But when you're starting, if you were taking a tennis lesson and your trainer said, yeah, let's just play tennis, or how about you just watch me play tennis? That should be part of the curriculum, but it should be like 10 to 20% of the curriculum. First thing he should be teaching you is what's the most important thing. The first thing they teach you in soccer is passing. If they fetishize the pass. If you can do the right pass and not lose possession, you get more possessions. Roughly, it's 170 possessions per goal. If you just double your number of possessions or never let go of your possessions or get more quality possessions, you will have more goals, right? And they start with that. It's just passing drills, different games for that. Ball handling drills, futsal. They focus on those things. And it was weird to me in poker we didn't do that, which is one of the reasons, by the way, I love this site. Because the fact you can just do a focus lesson on one topic is a revolution in this game we just did not have, right? Now, even more pragmatically, how much of the information are you now using that you just saw in the last 10 training videos you saw? Now tell me the 4 words you learned today and think of all the data that backed it up. Keep the betting lead. There's one other thing I want to say. If this comes up later in the webinar, forgive me. I forget if I wrote this down. Another thing I learned from my mentors who were teaching me about how to teach is simple is dangerous, and a lot of consultants don't want to do it because it's the maximum reward. You need to have something you can remember in the heat of battle, right? I'm not going to remember everything I just watched in the last Phil Galfond video the next time I play. I might remember a few words, but I'm not going to remember the total concept. But, however, if we keep things really pragmatic and they're simple, they're easy to apply, you can get a big return off that. However, think about what the teacher risks if it fails. Poker teachers typically don't want to do that. They want to make their answers and their consultation and their instruction as complex as possible, because then if you don't get it, you just go, well, you're not bright enough. Couldn't figure it out. You didn't work hard enough. That's a cop-out. I want to be held accountable. Because if it doesn't work, that means this is what I use when I play tournaments as well. I want to know why it doesn't work. I want to be taught that. You have to be malleable. You have to be willing to change in this game because things do change. Although this has been working for years. Now, we have some time to discuss practical application, so let's get it. It's folded to you here with Jack 9 of Hearts. What do you do? Got about 44 big blinds, 39 big blinds on the button. Your move. And if you pick option B, you must specify a raise size. All right, time is up. You should raise to 3,250 to 4,000. Now, let's talk about a few things here. A lot of times when I teach this class, people go, but you told me to just play 8s plus ace queen plus. No. That was an exercise to show you where most of your profits come from. And you probably didn't know how to get profits from the other hands. That's what I was saying. Now remember, I was showing you Jack 9 suited when you were 3-betting, or Queen 9 suited, a worse hand, and you're making money. My decent player was making decent money, even though he was still applying it from the beginning. Now, what we can surmise from that is there seems to be an unfair amount of leverage and profit given to someone who has the betting lead. Now, how do we ensure we have the betting lead right here? Why is this raise size of 3.25x to 4x correct in my mind? Although the vast majority of the rest of the MTT poker world thinks it's incorrect. What do you think? Remember what happened when we had the betting lead? We made money. What happened when we were 3-betting we could only call? We lost. -50, -100, -50. Why would I make a raise that was easy to 3-bet? Why would I raise to 2x? Everybody has an easy counterplay then. They risk 5x to win 5x. Why would I throw a fastball when their entire career, these guys have spent their entire careers hitting fastballs? If you can't hit a curve, I'm going to throw you a curve. Everybody has a strange feeling when they face a large open. Think of the last time you were playing a live tournament and somebody opened a 3.5x. How'd you feel? Did you 3-bet that guy with ace-6 off? Did you 3-bet that guy with 8-5 suited? They always assume it's some dumbass with pocket jacks, and generally they're right. I want to exploit that subconscious thought they have. Now, I was actually, in my research, when you raise the raise size to 3.1x to 3.5x, that seems to be the optimal. Actually, I looked at, I don't know if he wants me saying his name because I shouldn't be giving away how he plays, but a Portuguese player tried this out, and that seemed to be about the optimal range. When I was playing at WPT Borgata, I raised once to 3.5x, and a guy looked really disgusted by it, and just a pro. And then generally what I find is people's 3-bets in general are about 6.5%. Their actual 3-bet range when they can't move all in versus these big raises goes down to like 5%. That's like 10s plus. Now, one word to the wise, if somebody can rejam on you really easily, you might not want to do this raise size. I specifically picked these stack sizes because it was an illustration of how do we keep the betting lead in a situation where people couldn't really take advantage of it unless they were in the know, which most people are not. Back in 2006, 2007, the Poker X Factor days, if you watch those videos, the rejam was where those guys made all the money. Why was that? Well, most of the raise sizes back then were 3x, 3.5x. So they were just rejamming and picking up a ton of money every time somebody folded. Now you raise to 3.5x and the big blind calls you. How often do people call out of the big blind? In general. Do you think they adjust to a large raise? What do you think that distribution looks like calling huge raises out of position? Remember my question at the beginning of class? This is the player that you will make the majority of your money from in No Limit Hold'em. You want to play big pots with them in position versus their absurdly wide ranges that call here. And by the way, what the distribution will look like, it'll be more than -100. Your opponent checks to you. You know he's a little testy. You've made him tilting. You've been tilting him today because you made him fold a couple pairs, which, as we all know, is a fate worse than death. You know there's a possible check raise coming. You don't know if it will be a bluff or not. If he check calls, you're not sure as to his range. How do you keep the lead, and can you? If you pick option B, you must specify a bet. 7.5k in the middle. You have 7.5 big blinds. You guys have 34 back. Effective. All right, time is up. Fork in the Road answered 7.6k to 9,000. So in the actual hand I played, I made it 8.8k. The overbet is one of the most underused plays in No Limit Hold'em. I love it because people rarely try to take the lead back from you when you do it. Now, how often does this bet need to work? Do you know how to figure this out? How can you know if your bets are successful if you don't know how often they need to work? Go. Come on. I put a gun to your head. How often does this need to work? Give me a range. 25%, 50%, 75%, what? How would you do it? If I put a gun to your head and said, I'm going to pull the trigger unless you give me the exact number, what would you do? How can you know if your bets are successful if you don't know how often do they need to work? Do you think the Bellagio built those fountains off of not knowing what each one of their bets needed to do? You divide by 8,800 by 16,380, which is 0.5372, which means your bet needs to work 53.72% of the time, which we will round up to 54% of the time, which means the big blind needs to defend what percentage of the time? 46% of the time. To your left, you're looking at a supposed big blind calling range. This is ridiculously tight, but anytime we are bluffing, we should make our opponent Terminator. So here, he has a very tight range, and he's never folding a pair of threes. If he does that, however, you'll see those hands filtered out over here. So this is just all pairs. All flush draws. He plays back with flush draws. If he defends with those hands, those are 32.5% of the hands. That means he's folding 67.5% of the time. How often did our bet need to work? 54% of the time. When was the last time you check raised with ace high on a 6-2-2 board for all your chips versus the guy who overbet the flop? That's what he's going to have to do to play against this play. However, if you c-bet average, he had all the plays in the book. He could check, you make it 3K, he makes it 9K. You can't do anything. He does the exact same thing to you. You don't have a pair 65% of the time. Are you clicking it back? Most of you, I know you guys aren't doing it. I have the database statistics. It doesn't get done. That's why I check raise there all the time. Do I get outplayed? Yeah, once in a while, but not enough to make that play unprofitable over the last 5 years when I've been screaming about it from the rooftops. And if you check, what do you do if he leads on the turn? That is quite the edge. 13.5%. And it's all because we kept the lead by denying it to our opponent. He would have to float our check raise all in with ace high there to take the lead from you again. Again, think of our opponent. He doesn't want to look dumb. Remember back to that part of the lecture when I said how hard it is for him to raise as a bluff? Think of how dumb he would look if you overbet there, he raised as a bluff, and you had a 2. Which, by the way, is what happens most of the time. You always want to be that guy at the table that they go, dumbass, and then fold. That's why I love opening at 3.5x. Everybody just looks at me like, oh, Live Pro lost his mind. And then they fold. Or they call, which is even better. Especially from the big blind. Master Tournament Poker in one class is real lessons backed by real research. My program, which has been field tested thousands of times, contains a real framework for winning poker tournaments. They are easy to remember and created powerfully by research, all these simple concepts. I make them memorable because my belief is that the average player will choke and forget their training at their greatest final table, unless the lesson is easy to remember. Do yourself a favor, guys, sometime. Look at super successful players on SharkScope. See what percentage of their earnings is made up by one win. A lot of times your biggest final table is going to make up the majority of your career. And you're either going to be able to know what you're doing at that final table or you're not. And I've been teaching long enough that I can tell you most guys choke. Most guys, there's 2 different types of choke. You just never play a hand or you play too many hands. I can teach you what I recommend in this series at the final table, before you cash, different strategies, how to push 3-betting, how to be working on getting money post-flop as well. All those concepts we discussed at the beginning, fold bad hands, get more value bets, fold 1 pair to raises, those are really powerful too. And if you want to learn about them, we have to go deeper into this. This has been a preview for Master Tournament Poker in one class. If you enjoyed the subject matter of this presentation, if you enjoyed the way I come to my analysis in this presentation, if this sounds like the type of training you think would get your game to the next level, Master Tournament Poker in One class is the product for you. In this one, it is a complete out-the-box program to get you mastering tournaments. We discuss pre-flop raising, 3-betting, 4-betting, cold calling, blind defense, how to play each stage of a tournament, flops, turns, rivers, ICM. There's tons of reference materials. There's several videos that will guide you through it. Not a minute is wasted.
And that wraps up this part of the training series. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot from it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know how I'm doing. And if you learned something from this video, please let me know in the comments what your key takeaway or your biggest aha moment from watching this video was. I promise you, if you do that and then look at the other comments that are there, you're going to learn a whole lot more. This is the beauty of YouTube. This is the beauty of community. This is how we grow as a team, by sharing our insights, reading what others' insights were, and engaging in discussion to further develop those thought processes. I really hope you're enjoying this learning series. And when you're ready to watch more training lessons like this one, feel free to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gripst, or come by my website, www.gripst.com, and join Team Gripst for exclusive discounts, offers, and training opportunities. We got a whole lot of good ones coming on the way, and I hope that you are someone I will be getting to share them with. Let's get stacking. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it educational and entertaining. If you want to join Team Gripst, click on that subscribe button and tap that bell to be notified every time a new video goes live. For behind the scenes updates and motivational quotes from my poker journey, follow me on Instagram. And when you're ready to take one step closer to becoming poker's next champion, click on me in 3, 2, 1, and let's get stacking.